Another recipe in the book that people love and ask me about is called Genius Soup. Guess why?
Because it makes you smarter.
Well, probably, but because it's genius.
Okay.
It's genius.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a basic soup that's kind of like your French or Italian grandma would make, or other parts of the world. You make a base of celery, carrots, and onions, and you
I love
saute it.
celery. I love the flavor of celery.
You
Love
chop it
it.
all up, throw it in there, saute it, and then you start throwing. You open your fridge up and you go, okay, spinach, you're
Sure.
done
Throw it in.
in the soup. Okay, arugula, come on out of there. I've had it. I'm tired of looking at you.
Hey, before we get started with today's show and my very special guest, Lynne Bowman, who wrote an incredible cookbook called Brownies for Breakfast. Now, I don't know about you, but that really sounds appealing to me. So hang in there. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'll let Lynne tell you her story and tell you all about her cookbook. So, in the meantime, I just want to take a minute to tell you about my upcoming Equus coaching retreat called Autumn Renewal: Transform, Empower, and Embrace Your Freedom. It will be October 18th through the 20th in Paso Robles, California, at a beautiful ranch near Lake Nacimiento. It will be an intimate group of no more than 12 people, and it is co hosted with Frida Karsberg. And she is also an amazing Equus coach and master facilitator. We have worked together in the past, and we love hosting these retreats together. This is our second fall retreat that we are hosting. We did one last year, and it was incredible. It gives you the opportunity to be in nature and embrace the wisdom of horses and spend a lot of time in their space and their energy. There is It's really difficult to describe how transformative being around horses can be. It is a very incredible experience, and we have a lot of activities planned for you. Just so you know, there's no riding, so you don't need any riding experience. It will be fun. We'll have lunches at the ranch, and you'll be able to bond with other like-minded individuals and really just support each other in a very unique environment, I guess, is the best way to describe it. I will put a link to the retreat in the show notes, and I really hope that you can make it. Myself and Frida and all the horses will be there to welcome you and set you on your journey of transformation, empowerment, and embracing your freedom. So we'll see you in October. Check the link below, and spaces are limited, so sign up soon. And now, back to our show. Alrighty, it is time to stop hitting snooze and awaken to a life worth being, the fun and inspiring podcast that dives deep into what makes life truly fulfilling. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, a self-proclaimed badass transformational life coach for women over 40. Join me as I explore the extraordinary journeys of ordinary people who've transformed their lives from the inside out. Tune in weekly to uncover the secrets to smashing through your perceived limits and creating a life that's not just well lived, but totally worth being. Welcome to another episode of A Life Worth Being. My guest today has a really wonderful and fun resume. Her name is Lynne Bowman, and she is the author of the Amazon bestseller, Brownies for Breakfast. Now, I don't know who does not want brownies for breakfast, but I do. So I can't wait to hear more about that recipe. She's also been featured at women's expos throughout the country, teaming with actress Deirdre Hall to write and publish Deirdre Hall's Kitchen Close Up in 2010 and Deirdre Hall's How Does She Do It in 2012. She's won national awards as a creative director for various Silicon Valley companies, was a creative director for E&J Gallo Winery, advertising manager at Redken Laboratories, and freelanced for various agencies in San Jose and Los Angeles and New York. She's been all over the map, folks. At 78, she is the mother of 3 adult children and 3 grandbabies. I would love to welcome Lynne Bowman to the show. Lynne, how are you today?
Well, I'm exhausted after listening to that, first of
Right?
all. Um,
Sorry.
and I think I confessed to you before we started that I left some stuff off, but I wanna name one thing I left off because it's a fun thing to talk about. I was
Yeah.
a wedding planner for a while.
Oh my
So
God.
I know. So I was there watching these marriages be born, and sometimes it's not a pretty picture, let me tell you, but it's a fun thing to talk about. So you name it. Let's
I'm
talk
sure you
about it.
I'm sure you have some stories from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Wow. Well, that is a lot. That I mean, it sounds like it sounds like you're very creative by nature, as a writer and creative person. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you know, aren't we all? I mean, isn't everyone a creative person in some way? I think the only difference with me was that I was kind of a feral kid. And the thing that my parents would say to encourage me was, "Well, you're very good at your art, so why don't you sit over here and do some art?" And so I had encouragement in that way, and I stayed out of some trouble because of that, probably. But we're all creative, Sue. Everybody's creative in some way. And the only difference was I was cheeky and I thought I had something to give uh, in that way. So I did.
Well, I
Some of
think
us
getting
take
that
long to
early
find that out.
encouragement, yeah, that getting that early encouragement from, your parents, whether it was just to try and keep you in one spot or whatever their reasoning was. Because I think a lot of times our creative side gets squished out of us by either peers or parental units or whatever, and it's just not always encouraged because it's like you're not going to make a living doing that stupid thing,
Right. And
right?
the
So
school system, at least when I was growing up, 50s and 60s, you
mhm.
sat in a chair. You sat
Yeah,
in a chair in a row and you did what all the other kids did. And if you did anything kind of different than the other kids, you got in trouble.
yes, and
Um,
spent the afternoon in the hallway.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
speaking from experience. Spent a lot of time in the hallway.
Well, and I had a couple of teachers clever enough to send me into other classrooms to teach them how to make sheep and cows, to do their murals. And so I spent most of elementary school wandering around, going in other classes, interfering in their art classes, and not paying too much attention to mine, which that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all right.
I fully support that. I was always the kid that would, cut class and hang out in the pottery studio or somewhere else. And no, I didn't like school much myself. I actually quit high school twice, because I figured, if you're going to do something right, do it a couple times. So that's what I did.
Well,
I was
and this
bored.
is a fascinating thing to talk about right now because my 16-year-old granddaughter, for
Mhm.
example, is now in her second year of college
Mm.
because
16, second year. Wow.
because COVID to a great extent.
Oh, right.
Because this is a whole generation of kids who were sent home to be homeschooled
Yeah.
suddenly by all these moms and dads, professional people, like, okay, your kid's home now. What?
Yeah.
Um,
Surprise.
yeah,
Have at
yeah.
it. Here's your curriculum. Good
Here
luck with
you
that.
go. Yeah. So, but I also had some familiarity with the situation because my 3 kids, my 2 daughters particularly, were the middle child and the youngest child. My older daughter came home one day from school and said, "I'm not going back to high school. I'm going to finish high school and then I'm going to go to college." She was a junior at the time in high
Hmm.
school.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, great. How are you going to do that? She said, well, I'm going to take this one class and so on. I said, great, I'll sign up for that. Good.
Yeah.
And she got herself accepted to a swell school, Sweetbriar College in Virginia,
Nice.
and got scholarships and did all this stuff. And frankly, I was so busy at the time. I was supportive, but she did it. I was not the one doing all this. She was doing it. So
That's
then
great.
her younger sister got wind of this and went, wait a minute, she's going to be leaving. And my brother's just left. And I'm going to be here alone with you. No. So she applied to a college in Massachusetts,
Mhm.
Simon's Rock College. It's a
Okay.
Bard College of New York. They have this special campus. The Coen brothers went there for one. The movie
Oh,
makers.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it. I love their stuff.
and and when I tell you about it, you're going to go. And I never got to go there. Yeah, I know, me neither. It's a college particularly designed for creative kids who have a calling beyond high school. So they're really into music composers and
Love it.
poets and movie makers and so on. And so my daughter applied. Guy came out, interviewed her. She got accepted, got
Yeah.
scholarships. So in 1993, I drove my dark green minivan, my Chrysler, whatever it was,
I had
minivan
one of those
across the
things.
country
Yeah,
full
I
of
had a
hair
red one.
dryers and radios and stuff, and dropped one kid in Massachusetts and the other in Virginia. And of course, sobbed halfway across the country driving home. But so they started college 1 year early and 2 years early.
Mhm.
And mind you, there were relatives in my family. There were people saying, big mistake. How can you be doing that's just so
Yeah.
wrong. It's just rah. They're going to miss their senior prom. They're this or that. We never looked back.
Good.
Um, it worked out beautifully for the kids. In fact, and you're going to love this, the older one just recently finished her first semester of a new master's degree that she's now getting from Berkeley.
Mm.
Um, well, why not? Why not just keep
Yeah.
learning and doing that if you want? She's getting her master's degree in real estate development.
Oh, good for
I know.
her.
Good for her.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
It's funny, despite the fact that I quit high school twice, I got my GED, I went back, and finally, like, when I was in my mid-30s, went to community college for 2 years. So I have a 2-year degree. So I'm not a complete goof off, but I just, wasn't at that age, I was not focused enough. I had so much weird stuff going on in my life that I was just, like,
wild,
not.
like you were supposed to be.
Yeah, I wasn't focused on, like, why am I gonna go to college? Because I hate high school and I can't stand
Yeah.
school. I'm just not ready. I went out, I worked, like, 3 jobs, I did all kinds of crazy stuff. I threw a lot of spaghetti against the wall to see what would stick, and
Well, and you're my kind of girl. That's exactly. I went to UCLA, was there 3 semesters, and just I am so out of here. This is boring.
Mhm.
Just and it was what all nice young ladies, were supposed to do. You go to university. I should have gone to art center school, trade
Yeah,
school.
totally.
Um, but no one thought that was a good idea because university,
Yeah,
uh, and I have a couple friends still from that time in my life, and it's not a total waste, but I left and went to Paris,
good for
you know,
you. Yeah,
yeah. Which
that's
so
a much
you and I
better
are,
education, I say.
well, yes, hello, but we're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
If you have an active imagination, if you're creative, if you're all these things, and I think actually that university, that college is different now than it
yeah,
was then, and certainly high
mhm,
school. I don't know, high school maybe a lot like it was still, but my
probably.
young friends, the ones who are 19, 20, and now in college, and who come back and report, which I'm delighted about. Um, I'm that old lady, right? Come over and have tea and tell me what's going
Right.
on.
They
Uh,
love it. They love
I
it.
love it. and
You love
and
it, yes, of course.
and so I get to hear kind of how it is. And um, they're doing such wonderful things in the world.
Mhm.
One of my young friends has been very active in Heirs to Our Oceans and has been all
Hmm.
over the world speaking and trying to get attention for the problems with the oceans. We weren't doing that.
No, no.
No.
I was definitely not doing any of that that was gonna benefit anything.
Right. And Sue, here's another one. This is just very fresh in my mind because
Mhm.
I spent an hour in the car yesterday with my granddaughter, Helen, and we were talking about the fact that she has failed her driver's test 3 times
Hmm,
for her to get her learner's permit.
okay.
Now, this, mind you, is a girl who is acing statistics. We're talking A plus and calculus, okay, and
Mhm.
can't pass her driver's test. Okay, do we see an issue here, perhaps? So we talked about it on the way home, and she talked about her fears about driving. She
Mm,
talked about the whole idea of driving and what it represented for her, and so on.
interesting.
And a light went on for me. I thought, what would happen if she and many of her cohort, which is
Mhm.
happening, just refused, just said, no, we're not going to drive?
Yeah, yeah,
Our whole social structure is based on these kids at the age of 16 or 17 getting a car and driving away
yeah.
and driving themselves everywhere in their own automobile on the road by themselves.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not such a great idea anymore. Maybe it never was, but I mean, we
Yeah,
couldn't wait to drive because it was
I know.
freedom.
I exactly, I'm like, "Get me out of here." I was
Yeah.
we moved from upstate New York to Connecticut, and the driving age was lower there, and I'm like, I was first in line to get my permit, and
Sign
I'd
me
been
up, right?
driving the car since I was, like, 8 years old.
Yeah. But just imagine, it's one of those things where you go, wait, is that even possible
Yeah.
that they just refuse? Just say, no, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna drive.
that would be interesting. Yeah. I
That's a
think
different
that
world.
this is gonna sound like an old person thing. I think that younger generation is yeah. No, seriously. I was interviewing a very amazing person, young. Well, I say young, in her 40s, the other day, and the way that she's she's a mayor of a small town, and has her own winery, which she started in 2006, and very just thoughtful and innovative, and her 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 idea is that she wants to make things better for those that come after her. Now, if even half of us had that, kind of inspiration and thought process, to leave behind a beautiful legacy, right? Think of what the world would be like.
You're doing that,
Hmm.
and I'm doing that.
Yes. Yes, we need more people on board with us, Lynn, to raise the vibration and leave the world a better place than we found it.
But also
So,
that's where the big fun is. That's where
yeah.
the action is. That's where the energy is. And I, for 24 years, I was president of a little local Pescadero Community Foundation and I had a lot of fun. I spearheaded the renovation of this church in town, and I'm not a religious person. It wasn't about that, but I kind of worship bricks and mortar. I love buildings, and I
Mm,
love building buildings and renovating buildings, and so I I had a blast saving this old church. It was the oldest church in San Mateo County,
wow.
still on its original foundation, 1867. Beautiful, sweet, simple, old building. And it's been so heartening to see how happy it makes people to honor these old structures that represent gathering. you know?
Mm,
That's what's
mhm.
holy there.
Yeah.
People gather there. And there's pancake breakfasts and there's little, council meetings and the AA meets there and all these things. And to me, that has to do with my book because it's also very much about sitting at the table and gathering. And yes, brownies for breakfast if you want. The,
Here we are. We're talking about brownies for breakfast. I love it. I love it.
the subtitle of the book is a cookbook for diabetics and the people who love them, which
Hmm.
means everybody, because we all know a diabetic and
Yeah.
we all love a diabetic. Um, and also about leaving behind something, you know, diabetes is basically preventable and it's certainly manageable, controllable, in
Mhm.
most cases without medication. I'm talking about type 2, not
Right.
necessarily type 1. And so my big um, mission has been to help people understand that and to help people understand that you do it by having fun, by eating better, by sitting at the table and having more delicious, simple, wonderful food. Not fancy, not complicated, just sit down, have some soup.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I love soup. Yes. And it's getting to be soup season. I love fall. I have a fall retreat coming up in Paso Robles, California with another coach, friend of mine. It's a Equus coaching retreat. And it's at this
Good place
gorgeous
to do
private
that.
ranch. Oh, gorgeous private ranch. And I think it's going to be our annual event. It's called Autumn Renewal. I love the change of season when summer is just sort of a fun playtime. It can be really active in a different way than when you're, in that work mode. And then, fall comes along I love sweater weather. I'm from New England, so I love me some sweater weather. I like get out the hoodies. Not that, I live in Washington State in the Seattle area. So it's not like I have a summer wardrobe because we don't get that much summer here.
Got some
But I
heat
do
though.
love pulling out those cozy, hoodies and sweaters and stuff. And, when I was a kid in New England, the leaves would change and it was just, I'm born in September. So I think, fall is great. So sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but you mentioned soup and I just love, even though I'm cooking for myself, I love a big pot of soup. And
Thank
I
you.
would love to hear one of your favorite soup recipes, but go on, tell me more about your book.
Well, I want you to have the book, so we'll talk about that
Yeah, love it.
offline. But soup is a thing that represents thrift, frugality,
Mhm.
simplicity. It's very efficient. I've said so many times, my superpower cooking was not the thing that you usually hear chefs talking about. It was I knew how to throw it on the table in 15 minutes. That's what I cheap, fast, yummy. Sit down, everybody.
Love it. Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
I had a bunch of kids and their friends, and then my friends. Because I had kids, I couldn't go out. If you were going to party with me, it was going to have to be at my table.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of years with a kind of strange collection of um, kids and clients and friends at my table. I had to know how to throw that hash out there, make it good, make it fast, and that was why I ended up writing the books because I had a couple friends say to me, "I never knew anybody that could do that. They could just boom, right?
Yeah.
You get home, you throw down your stuff, and you're in the kitchen, and then it's on the table, and there you are." And we sat down with implements, with a fully set table,
Mhm.
because the kids grew up doing that. I
Yeah.
was not the slave. I was not the servant. I was the teacher, which is a thing I wish more parents now sort of would accept.
Maybe
That
that's your next book.
yes, maybe it is the next book. Um, yeah, because Granny here's got some stuff to say about that.
Yeah, you do.
I do. But so soup, my dear, I want you to know that in my book, one that people absolutely love is mushroom soup. And people associate
Mm.
mushroom soup with the can of mushroom soup, right? That
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
no, no, no. It's so simple, and mushrooms are such magical, especially now, but they're
Mhm.
as a food, they're
Yeah.
so nutritious. They're so yummy. They blend into all these different things. People don't
Mhm.
understand. It's like 3, 4 ingredients, and you've got yourself a big old pot of fabulous soup, which can stay in the fridge and do all kinds of things. Put some in the freezer. But my secret, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm listening. Yes.
Okay, you've cooked the soup down and it's really yummy, and then you throw in a shot of bourbon.
Really? Hmm.
I promise you it's the best mushroom soup you've ever had in your life. It's
It's
really good.
it sounds pretty yummy and also bourbon is a very warming, libation in the winter, fall and winter months for sure.
And it gives it a little acid kick. It's wonderful,
Oh,
and
interesting.
your friends will be very impressed.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
will
another
look
one.
up that recipe. So
Yeah.
let me just ask you for
It
a base, do you use bone broth?
no,
Oh, okay. I
if
know
you
that a lot of
have
people really swear by it, you know?
yeah, if you have bone broth, fine, use it.
Mhm,
What I call for is good broth. So that could be
mhm.
from Trader Joe's in a box. It could
Yep.
be from your fridge that you've made. Use what you have. Open up your fridge and eat what's in there. Open up your
Mm.
pantry and eat what's in there. Don't let it sit on the shelf for 3 years. Eat it.
Right? Oh my goodness, yes, I know.
So
I
there's certain basic things like broth that, you could use vegetable broth, you could use chicken
yeah,
broth. I don't use a lot of animal products. I'm very sparing in the amount of animal food that I eat.
I think that's
Um,
a good thing, and I'm definitely trending in that direction myself.
and I grow food. So what I have
Ah,
is typically vegetable broth. I mean, I got tons of it. Another recipe in the book that people love and ask me about is called Genius Soup. Guess why?
'cause it makes you smarter?
Well, probably, but because it's genius.
Okay,
It's genius.
okay.
Okay. And it's a basic soup that's kind of like your French or Italian grandma would make, or other parts of the world. You make a base of celery, carrots, and
Mhm.
onions, and you
I love
saute.
celery. I love the flavor of celery.
You
Love
chop
it.
it all up, throw it in
Yeah.
there, saute it, and then you start throwing. You open your fridge up and you go, okay, spinach, you're
Sure.
done.
Throw it in.
In the soup. Okay, arugula, come on out of there. I've had it. I'm tired of looking at you. Cabbage, let's go. So you just clean out your crisper and take all
Mm.
this stuff, rinse it if you have to, chop it some, and throw it. You can use collard greens.
Mm.
Wonderful. And people go, collard greens, yeah, huh? Just put it in the soup.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
love it.
And so, and then some tomatoes or some boxed tomatoes chopped.
Mhm.
And then you can season it, and I tell you how to do that or not. So what you're going to do is you make this big vat, and you add water and you add broth if you have it, and you make this big vat of genius soup on your stovetop, and then you freeze some. You eat.
Mm, mhm.
You can make dinner every night. One night you put pasta in there. Another night you put beans. Maybe another night you put tortilla strips and hot sauce. And there are all kinds of ways you can make Greek soup another night. But this basic soup can feed you for a long time. There are all kinds of things you can do with it, and it's always good. I mean, and soup,
I'm
as you're
getting
just
hungry
saying,
here, Lynn. I'm gonna have to take a break and go make
over,
some soup.
come over. Um, soup is a thing that Americans just don't do very much.
Right.
And
I mean, and, like, the when you talk about it, it's so simple, right? Because I think that people think, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to cut up all these ingredients. I'm gonna have to do all this stuff," and it's really just that simple and just yeah. And then, like you said, it's like having bread starter, right? I remember Anthony Bourdain in his book Kitchen Confidential was talking about the bread starter that he'd have to like keep feeding, right? And I won't use the language he used, but but it's kind of like that where you just have this beautiful thing that you can add to
right.
augment and, make it new. Like you said, you can do all
Yeah.
these different things to it. So that's fantastic.
And yes, you've had to go in the kitchen and chop some stuff, but you only had to
Right.
do that once in a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think of it as meditation. I mean,
Hmm.
you're just in there, you're not thinking real hard about anything. You're just chopping stuff.
Yeah. You
But
put on a podcast or something and,
in my case, it would be some Philippe Jurovsky,
oh, there you go.
some countertenor in the background. But cooking should be fun, should not be stressful. And in my case, it's going to be simple because I'm not that smart, and I'm lazy, and I don't want to run out to the store and get those 5 things that are called for in the recipe. And so I've
Yeah.
got a basic stock of stuff in the kitchen, and I tell you in the book what you need. Just here,
I
keep
love
this,
that.
keep
Yeah.
this, keep
Yeah.
that, and then you just make all this stuff from that. You don't because I live out in the country too. I can't just
Mhm.
jump in the car and run out and buy stuff. I mean, I might shop maybe once a week, and we have a farmers market during the summer, and so I'll go there
Mhm.
once a week. Trader Joe's, I couldn't live without, but it's 45 minutes away, so I combine it with
Mhm.
other things. Um, and Trader Joe's has some great basic stuff
They do. And
that,
and and it's reasonable, the quality is good,
yes, my
this
new
episode
favorite,
is not sponsored by Trader Joe's, but if you're out there listening, we're all for it, so
love ya, and I will
hope
give
you
you
mean
a
it.
my favorite new item is their high protein pancake mix.
Really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's 10 grams of protein for 3 little pancakes, or just a kind of a small
Uh-huh.
serving. And all you do is add water. The ingredients are good stuff, no bad stuff in there. And this morning, I don't eat breakfast exactly. This morning I worked out, so after that, kind of an early lunch, I made my pancakes with chopped cabbage, chopped very fine, and
Hmm.
blackberries that I picked, and a little bit of cottage cheese. They
Hmm.
were
Interesting.
so good.
You know,
Just
I was thinking about the cottage cheese thing because I have made pancakes before that were like sweet potato pancakes
very
with
good.
egg
Yeah.
whites folded in, and I wanna say there was a cottage cheese component to that, but I they were so good. So, so good. Love
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
I love, sweet potatoes. They've kinda
I
been
I
I've been
use
on a
sweet
sweet
potatoes
potato
in
binge.
all different kinds of ways. And now with air fryers, we can do little
Mhm.
sweet potato fries and, all kinds of cool little things too. I'm kind of behind the curve on that because, again, I'll mention I'm old, and it seems like it's young folks who have adopted this very quickly, and I'm getting the drift now and going with it.
I think you're
Um,
pretty adaptive, Lynn. Come on now.
well, that's how one gets to a certain age, isn't it? You just
Yeah.
roll with the flow as much as you can. But also, one gets to this age by eating good food,
We're getting the
whole,
theme here for sure.
real food, whole food, plant based,
Mhm.
mostly plants. And the science just keeps coming in. I don't care what those guys in their YouTubes with the muscle t-shirts, and they're all greased up and everything, talking about how to live forever. They're like 35, right? And
Right, they have no concept of forever.
no concept. And
Gotta be
you know,
40, right?
you know, you hand a guy like that a toddler and see how he reacts. I
Right.
just wondered, he's a martial arts guy and so on with all the muscles, and you're like, here, take this kid for 20 minutes, okay? Right?
That's
Anyway,
interest so, well, I mean, you keep saying that you're old, but you're 78 and you are the spunkiest person that I have talked to in a really long time, and I love
it's
your
good.
energy so much. So tell me, and I would be at your house in a second, sitting at that table with all your friends, and I know you told me earlier that you have a much more quiet household now, but I'm
Right.
sure you still entertain a fair bit, and I would love to break bread with you at some point. Um,
You will.
can't wait. I'm gonna fire up my VW bus and head down the coast.
We've
I'll,
got
I'll see
room.
you in
I have
about
a
a
guest
year.
house. I have a guest house with the bed is always made.
Awesome. I love it. So, what do you think is your key to longevity?
Well, one, I'm mean. Um, that's huge, right?
Mhm.
Just
Tell me
wanting to
more
be the
about I'm
last.
me. What does that mean to you? I'm me.
I'm determined to be the last one standing.
Oh, all right.
There's some kind of old um, uh, Japanese saying about watching your enemies float down the river. You know, I
That's
know,
friendly.
but I spark to that. Yeah, yeah. I I'm hanging in here, baby. So watch your step. Um, yeah, that's part of it. I what? I eat well, and I
Mhm.
have eaten well for a long time because I knew in my 40s that I was diabetic. I was
Mm,
had gestational diabetes, and really hideous health care. So I spent a lot of time researching, trying to find what in the heck a person could do. My mother had died when I was 18. She was
mm.
46.
Oh my goodness.
She
Wow.
she had kidney disease and couldn't have helped it.
Mm,
But I think that that really colored my whole life and set me on a course that has wound up here talking to you about food and health because I understood, Sue, not only what illness was like and what illness did to a family, but I understood that it took us down financially. It broke the
mhm.
I mean, my house was gone, my dad, went off and had another life, my siblings were gone, my dog had been given away. Everything was gone
Wow.
because of her disease and the cost of that.
Mhm.
And the cost of that, because my dad just, had spent every dime and that's what happens. And
Yeah.
the statistic is something like 85% of the bankruptcies in the United States are because of health,
Yep.
ill health.
Yes.
And if anyone has been through an episode, cancer, another serious thing, you know that in addition to the illness, what you really are suffering from is financial distress,
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. That is
especially
huge.
if you're a
And as we
parent.
age. Mhm.
How are you dealing with your kids if you're down and out? I mean, if you're not dealing with it, you kind of don't need to pay close attention. But if you in your family have been through serious health issues, that's what happens. It tears you apart. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what your college education is or
Yeah.
your plans for it's just you're finished.
Yeah.
Whether you continue to live for some number of years or not is irrelevant in a way. It's you've been taken down.
Yeah.
And so that I lived when I had my babies, all I could think about was I am not going to leave them. I am going to be
Yeah.
here for them. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to be here for them. I was their sole support. Um, so that's what I did. And and that can make you kind of tough, you know.
Absolutely. Mama
Uh,
bear.
That's
Yeah.
that's how that is.
Yeah.
And I had been through this. The kid's dad was a Marine who came
Mm,
home from Vietnam, like so many of those guys did, changed
mhm.
his clothes on the plane. When I met him, he was in a three-piece suit, banker, tall, good-looking, fast-talking guy from
Mm,
North Carolina. And in those days, we married rather quickly, and I was thrilled to be having children and had three quickly. But in a matter of a year or two, he began to disintegrate in front of me.
mhm.
And you hear this story, different forms of this story. And I bring it up again because so many people don't understand that more of those vets have died by far from their own hand than died in combat. And
Yeah.
he was one who ended up dying by his own hand. But um, I just was determined that we were not going to die with him, that he was not going to kill us as part of what was going on. He was violent and addicted and deeply troubled. And so that went on for a number of years. But the determination to survive it, in a way, has served me well.
Yes,
It
I
wasn't
will have to agree with you. It has served you well, and your spirit is very inspiring for sure, for sure. Because that's a lot
so.
to watch someone that you love and fall apart before your very eyes, and then take their own life. I mean that is,
And of course, when you're going
and
through this, and as a young woman, you think you're the only person in the world with such deep
yeah,
unhappiness, with such a burden. And the more you live on, you realize that this is a thing that so many people deal with in some way or other and are still dealing with. And and now, of course, we're hearing a lot about the loneliness epidemic and
hmm,
the mental health issues of school kids.
yeah.
Um, so it goes on, but I have to keep coming back to the kitchen table and whatever you can do to help yourself and your loved ones be more healthy and more happy. Because the kitchen table also, it means it's love, it's community, it's
Yes,
sacrament, it's
yes.
so many things in addition to food. It's nourishing in every sense of the word. And I worry that so many families are so busy doing choir and football and all these
Hmm.
things that they're eating their meals out of a bag in the back of a car. And I think you miss an enormous amount by doing that.
I totally agree with you, and I just listening to you describe that, and the times when I have been with my chosen family, around a table for a meal or whatever. It is community, and it is so nurturing, not just the food, but the conversation, the laughter, the experience, and you know, talk about the pandemic and how that affected all of us. I think that, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about, we crave that human connection, like we were talking about at the beginning before we came on air, that, the physical touch, the, hugging people, like, hey, how's it going? I'm a hugger. I admit it. Right. And just the physical closeness and everything. And then the pandemic came and took all of that away. And now that we can actually get out and commingle and not have to be, for the most part, 6 feet away from our fellow human beings, it feels very different. Um, it, it's almost like I feel like we're going through a rehumanization on some level of being able to reconnect with people in a real way. I mean, thank God for Zoom and all of those other things that, kept us connected during the pandemic. And we probably rely a little bit too heavily on. Here we are, that's what we're doing right now. But I still feel very connected with you. But I do think that there is a lot of rehumanization that needs to take place. And people have to relearn a little bit of civility. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but I feel like that's kind of missing.
Well, and I'm hearing that. It's out
Mhm.
there in the ether. And I also feel strongly, to go back to something I said earlier about the church project that I
Mhm.
did. And we need to get back to building our physical environments to embrace what we need in our spiritual environments. So,
Mhm.
I mean, something as simple as a park bench
Yeah.
can be life enhancing in a huge way. And I love the idea of women like my daughter being the ones to plan the bricks and mortar villages of the
Mhm.
future and to replan the ones of the past. We've been living in a physical world that for the past, what, 60, 70, 80 years has been built around cars.
Mhm. Mm.
We honor our automobiles
Yeah.
in every possible way. We want them to have shade and heat and all good things.
Right.
And we
More
have
so than
complete,
most humans have, right?
yes, yes. So we are now looking at this kind of sea change in automobiles. We're going electric and so on. But I think, and as I told you, my granddaughter was the one who said to me, what if I just don't drive?
Yeah.
What if I just say no? What if a whole generation of kids said, no, thanks, I'm not going to drive?
Mhm.
Would that force us to then have good electric trains like Europe?
Maybe.
Ooh,
Maybe.
wouldn't that be exciting? And you and I could travel between Washington and California on a
Yeah.
beautiful, fast, clean train and yak
Yeah.
the whole way and feel safe and embraced. How about
Yeah.
that? Would that
Yeah.
be cool?
It would be cool. It would be
And then
cool.
what if you got to the station and it was beautiful and safe and uh, comfortable and an easy place to
Yeah.
wait? Have you been to an airport recently?
Last week, yes. I was in
How was that for you?
yeah. You know, I kinda do at the airport what I do, like, when I go to Costco, if I ever go to Costco, I don't go there anymore, but, I I put on my curious bubble, and I observe people. I try not to get stressed out because there's nothing you can do about it.
That's good.
Um, and, you know, just take it for what it is. The plane's late. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Have you ever
But
been
it is
have you
a
ever flown into
place.
Oslo?
Yes, actually, many years ago. So my memory of it is vague, but I loved that city actually. The Vigeland Garden was gorgeous.
Well, I
But
just that was, to me, such an amazing moment to arrive at the airport on first of all, it looks like a beautiful ski resort, and
like I said, it's
you
been a
walk
long time since I was there, but yeah.
and it may be a totally different airport now, but you walk a short distance, and this is international travel, so your passport's out, and you walk
Mhm.
up to the little thing, and this nice person says, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Bowman. Are you here for business or for pleasure? Both. Okay, good.
I'm here
Well,
for
have a
2.
good time. I hope you enjoy your stay. Here's your
Yeah.
passport." And I'm thinking, boy, he's nice.
What?
And and then you walk a few more steps, and you go to, and there's the train and you get on the train to go
Nice,
wherever you want to go. No parking lot, no,
nice.
no
Yeah,
big search for a rental car. No, no, you're just hello, and then you get on the train, and the messages are in English as well as the sort of
Norwegian.
yeah, but I'm trying to the system that is telling
Oh,
you
oh, gotcha,
where
yeah.
you need to go. Yeah, and so you understand all of it. The train is so clean and beautiful, and you sit down and it's comfortable. I mean,
Sounds civilized.
it was so civilized. It was just we just had the best time there. Um, and ever since then, I've thought to myself, and I know there are airports in the United States that are probably beautiful. I haven't seen any of them. I haven't been in
Mm.
any of them yet.
I love the small airports where you can just, it's just you get off the plane. Sometimes you don't even have one of the tubes that you walk through. You just get off the plane literally onto the tarmac and
But
walk into the
where are
airport.
you seeing a small airport like that now in the US? I wanna go
Um,
there, where that is.
let's see. I was in Sun Valley, Idaho.
That doesn't even count, Sue. Pete's
It
sake,
wasn't a private plane. I flew
there's
in
nothing
commercial.
ugly in Sun Valley.
Oh,
Come
all
on,
right. Well,
except
that was Palm
billionaires,
Palm
maybe. They're not all
Springs.
here.
How about Palm Springs?
Yeah, Palm Springs, yeah, that's
That's a cute
nice.
little airport.
Yeah, it is. Cute little town too.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. So anyway, you get my drift.
I do,
Um,
I do.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do. Yeah, I recently was down in outside of McMinnville, outside of Portland, Oregon, and I stayed in this vintage trailer park. And it was I love vintage trailers. I mean, I just kind of missed that era. I'm 65. I'll be 65 September,
Your child, but
and
yeah, go on.
just a baby. But it was like they had this whole street, and it was like this, something out of the 40s and 50s. And there were all these little vintage trailers and the cruiser bikes out in front of them. And it was just delightful. I roasted marshmallows and made s'mores at my
One of the surprising
campsite.
things that I learned as part of my studies of urban planning,
Hmm.
one of the things that startled me that I thought, wow, is that so, was that the best model in the United States for successful communities
Hmm.
is a trailer park.
Mm. Yeah, you're right there with your neighbors, and it's community for sure. Yeah.
It is community. People are forced to interact in a positive way.
Hmm.
They don't have too much work to do to keep up their individual places, but they do
Yeah.
have individual places. Maybe there's a swimming pool, maybe and I mean the list goes on. You go, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what people want. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Um, and yet we always thought of trailer parks as being, sort of less than,
Right.
when
Yep.
in fact that was the secret, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and of course, if you've ever been part of a home that was 10,000 square feet or spent time with a friend in a giant, maybe your Sun Valley friends have one of those giant places, what you figure out really quickly is that's not a good way to live. First of all, you
I
get lost
know.
in the house. Your kids are a mile away down a hall, and so you can't find them. It's too
Yeah.
much. People, we can only sit on one potty at a time. I mean, you know, um,
That's so true.
right? And
No, I'm with you. I think these McMansions are kind of ridiculous. I'm a 50s single level, you know, atomic ranch gal. That's my jam. I've had several of them, and I just love them.
well, and we fell in love with this money pit that you see behind me, uh, because I was born in Hollywood, California, and grew up in LA. So, number one,
Oh,
I'd never seen weather in my life. I had no idea what people were talking about when they talked about weather, which is why I was the worst weather person ever in the history of
that's right.
mankind.
I forgot that on your
Yeah.
bio that you were a TV
Well,
weather person.
so, and in LA, you have buildings that look like hot dogs and donuts and stuff, but growing up with
Funny.
that, I just thought these aren't the buildings that I'm seeing in my sweet little storybooks and so on. These are crappy looking buildings. Um, so I had this romantic idea about where I wanted to ultimately settle, which became this old house in Pescadero, California. It's an 1880s house. And I refer to it now as my Barbie dream farm. Um,
I love it. Is it pink?
what's that?
Is it pink?
No, it's not pink. No, it's
Just
gray
checking.
and white and black, but it's very sweet looking. And I've had a
I love it.
blast renovating it, rebuilding it, and saving the good bits and adding a bit on. It's a wonderful spot, but it is a small house. I mean, the
Mm,
whole house is
yeah,
maybe
need a lot.
1,800 square
Yeah,
feet, which
same here.
isn't teeny, but
Yeah,
it's not huge either. And then we have a little cottage out back, little guest house
where I will stay when I come have soup.
where you will stay when you come. Absolutely. Um, but I've certainly spent time in bigger places, and you they're not more full of love. They're not
Mm-mm.
sweeter. They're not more comfortable. they're none of the things that we really want, except maybe impressive in some way, which,
Yeah. And who are
um,
we trying to impress, right? Nobody.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, oh my God. I could sit here and talk to you all afternoon
But you'll
and
have to come to my house to do that.
into the evening. And yes, I will. Maybe on my way back from Paso Robles or something. Yeah.
Perfect. It's a
Maybe
perfect
you should
place.
come to my retreat. Bring a bunch of friends and come to my retreat. I'll put I'll tell you all about it later.
You will tell me
So
all about
I will. I'll send you a link to it.
it. Great.
So as we're wrapping up here, give me one thought that or one thing, if you could give someone a nugget of how to live by, right, to improve their life, and tell me and just sum it up into a nice little nugget.
It's
What
two
is your
words, just two
okay?
words. Eat joyfully.
I love it. That is perfect. Eat joyfully and healthfully. I can't wait
Well,
to check out your book.
yeah, but I
Lynn,
mean,
this
if
has
it's a peanut butter sandwich,
eat joyfully, right? I love
joyfully.
that.
Yeah.
I'll just one about eating joyfully. I live in a small town. You're talking about driving and not driving. And I love to walk into town to get an ice cream cone from the kids at the little ice cream scoop shop, right? The high school kids, and they're just scooping out the ice cream, and it is just the sweetest thing. And then I sit out on the bench in front of the ice cream shop in downtown Enumclaw, and I enjoy my ice cream and watch everybody go by. So I am eating joyfully.
Good for you. And you're lucky that your system will tolerate ice cream.
Yes. I don't
Plenty of
know.
us
I need
candied
anyways.
ice cream. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Lynn, thank you so much for being on the show. I can't thank you enough. This has been the most fun and
Good.
enjoyable and comforting conversation that I've had in a long time. So thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for being on the show.
inviting me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Life Worth Being. I hope you found it fun and inspiring. And to avoid a bad case of FOMO, please be sure to click that subscribe button. If you love what you heard today, please share it with a friend and then hop on over to your favorite podcast platform and return the love with a wonderful review and 5-star rating. It would truly mean the world to me. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and on my website. Links below in the show notes. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week for more fresh insights on awakening a life worth being.